righty, it's 2 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We are covering now the property showing and representation agreement. So what this is this is like a temporary buyer representation broker compensation form. Okay, that's the best way to describe this. I would probably recommend utilizing this for maybe your cold leads. Somebody that you're not sure you want to commit to a ongoing relationship with. Somebody maybe like a open house lead that wants to go see some additional properties right after the open house. Maybe your Zillow clients that you need to sign something before you go see some properties. It's only for use up to 3 properties. Okay, prospective buyers for up to 3 open house or other properties only. So you can only utilize this one for 3 properties. After that, you have to transition over to the BRBC, the regular buyer representation and broker compensation form that we covered at 11 o'clock. Okay, so this form, brand new form. They're just trying to create something smaller for you. Sorry, my thing just freaked out. I don't like what it did. There we go. Let me escape this. I tried to make it full size and I don't like it. There we go. All right. It was jumping around and doing weird things on the screen. So let's do this way. Top of the form, just like basic other forms, you got your date prepared, parties to the agreement and properties. So you're going to put prospective buyer here, broker, Realty One Group, Fox here. I'm going to wait and see if it's going to reshare the screen. It looks like it's not. So let me reshare that. Give me just 2 seconds. All right, there we go. It should be sharing now. So Realty One Group goes on the second line on section 1, and then the right to represent prospective buyer regarding the following properties only. 1, 2, 3. You're going to list out the property addresses. This is property specific. Okay, show or tour property. Broker agrees virtually or in person to show or give tour of the properties identified on the prospective purchaser. See how this is going to come in handy with like our Zillow clients for our first like 3 properties, that initial meeting with them. Right to represent prospective buyer grants broker the non-exclusive right to represent prospective buyer in acquiring the properties identified on the following terms and conditions is 3. 4 is the items in this paragraph are contractual to terms of the agreement. Reference paragraphs provide further explanation. The form is 3 pages. Prospective buyer is advised to read all 3 pages. I don't know why it's flickering in and out, at least on Facebook. I apologize for that. Hopefully it's not doing the same on Zoom. But A is the representation period, beginning and ending. Just note that the BRBC that we covered earlier is now a 3-month time frame. You can't exceed 3 months. This one, it's temporary. It's for 3 properties only, and it's for 30 days. Okay. So it's either beginning and ending. You might have it like just the day that you're going to go show properties. You might say all 30 days on here, or upon completion of resulting transaction, whichever occurs first. So if you go show those initial 3 properties, you write an offer gets accepted. We're now exceeded 30 days. Totally okay. This exceeds that as long as you're already in contract before the expiration of the representation period. B is broker compensation notice. The amount of rate of real estate commissions is not fixed by law. They are set by each broker individually, may be negotiable between prospective buyer and broker. B1 is the amount of compensation. This is going to be a percent and checkbox if we want like a percent plus a flat rate, or we can check this box after the or and just put in a flat rate. So those are your options there, percent and flat or just flat. B2 is payments received by broker from seller. If broker receives compensation from seller or others pursuant to a term if prospective buyers offer to purchase or otherwise, the amount shall be credited against the prospective buyer's obligation to pay broker. Broker shall not receive any amount in excess of paragraph 4B1. So same statement that was on the BRBC. If somebody else is compensating us, the buyer's obligation is reduced by that amount. And again, this BRBC, the revision, and based on the settlements, we can't take more than what the buyer has agreed to pay us. Okay, so whatever we put on this line, that's the max that we can receive. We can always go in and do a modification of terms and change it or drop it down. But so this allows you to actually negotiate your value, not just what the average commission is, previously or what you've gotten previously. You can determine what you want to get paid, just like you can on a listing. Cancellation rights and notice effective upon receipt or blank days after receipt. I would make sure I check the box here and put like 15 or 30 days or whatever, just so you can't go show the buyer property. They turn around, decide they want to write an offer. They send you the cancellation of this, and then you, they could go make an offer on the property behind your back. This just protects you there. So I'd probably put like 30 days after receipt or 20 days or whatever that is. Other terms is line D. Any questions there on the baby grid? All right. Fabulous. Compensation to broker,
Wait,
section
Amy?
5. Yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I logged in late. Which form is this?
Yeah, so this is our new property showing and representation agreement. This is like our temporary representation agreement. I know there were several of you that joined late. So this is like temporary. It's for a max of 3 properties, max of 30 days. So this would be like for if you met somebody in open house and they're like, hey, can we go see this other property this afternoon? We have to have something in place to show them properties. This would be a good form to use before you commit to them, for a whole 3 months. You spell out the property there. It could also be used for your Zillow clients on that initial showing that, hey, I've got a temporary representation agreement that I need you to sign in order for me to show you these properties. Once we have a chance to meet, then we can decide if we want to move forward and work together on a longer term basis. And then I'll send you over a new agreement, right? So this just is that temporary property specific, up to 3 properties, no more than 30 days.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. All right. Compensation to broker. Notice the amount and rate of real estate commissions is not fixed by law. They are set by each broker individually and may be negotiable between prospective buyer and broker. You're going to see that on so many forms now. Advisory. The real estate commissions include all compensation and fees to broker and are fully negotiable. Broker right to compensation. Broker shall be entitled to compensation. This you're going to see here is very similar to the BRBC. It outlines non-exclusive representation, broker involvement. What is broker involvement? We just covered that. I'm not going to read this in its entirety. You can do so, but we covered that in the last class. Timing of compensation, just when are you due compensation? Same thing that matched the BRBC, that the payment should be processed through escrow and that we can submit this agreement signed by the buyer as instructions to escrow for that payment. Accounting for payments to brokers if broker also represents seller, stating that the commissions received by the seller doesn't count towards the buyer's obligations. Payments received from others less than prospective buyer or compensation obligation. This is the same thing that is in the BRBC as well. It's just stating that any of the other third-party payments are going to happen through escrow as well. And if there's a discrepancy over getting paid, if the seller fails to pay us as the brokerage, that the buyer's assigning their rights to go after the seller to us so that we can go after the seller for that compensation. Cancellation of representation agreement is section 6. Either prospective buyer or broker may cancel the agreement by giving written notice to the other within the time specified in paragraph 4C. Broker shall be entitled to compensation if during the representation period, prospective buyer acquires a property for which there was broker involvement, provided broker delivers to buyer prospective buyer a written list of those properties for which there was broker involvement. The written list of those properties should be delivered to the buyer within 5 days after the effective date of this cancellation. Before, during, and after the 5-day period, prospective buyer is advised to notify any other broker of broker's rights under this paragraph. Okay, so same thing, just that continuation clause. Agency relationships, just talking about how we can represent the buyer. Broker authorizations and obligations, that we're going to diligently represent prospective purchaser in any resulting transaction. For any property entered into during the representation period. Okay, and that we're going to do our avid visual inspection. Prospective buyer obligations, that they're going to act timely and in good faith to communicate and cooperate with the broker regarding any material issues or factors in any resulting transaction during the representation period. If requested, prospective buyer shall provide relevant personal and financial information. We'll talk about that form. I think it's coming up in the next hour. Prospective buyers attending an open house without representation. You are not required to sign a representation agreement to see a property at an open house, right? There's that other open house form that we covered yesterday. That is the notice to open house visitors, because now if we're going to host an open house, there is a form for that. You need everybody to sign in and agree to that form, stating that you're not going to represent them, you're showing them the property. If you do not want the agent holding the open house to represent you, then you should not sign this form, and you should read and understand the open house visitor non-agency disclosure and sign in. That's the form we covered yesterday. I like to call it the Ohana form. It's not really how you would say it, but it looks close enough. So anyways, that's what I would utilize, the OHNA-SI for open houses. This would be if we want to proceed out of the open house to another property, or again, like a cold market lead that you're not sure you want to work with. All prospective buyers, if you have already signed a representation agreement with another broker, you should inform broker of the name of that other broker and provide a copy of that agreement to broker, or request broker to obtain a copy from the other broker. If you have already signed a representation agreement with another broker and you sign this form, you may be obligated to pay 2 different brokers if you purchase the property, right? This isn't preventing them from entering into more than one agreement. It's not like I was already in agreement and I signed this one and now the other one's void, or this one's void because I already had one. No, it's not. Stupid buyers, please pay attention. Please make sure you communicate with your buyers, because that means that they could be obligated to 2 separate commissions. Wah, wah, wah. All right. Any questions on the PSRA form? PSRA. Nope, we're all good. Fabulous. Then that brings us to the end of this form. That is, let's see what's coming up next. I'm going to stop share. Give me just a second.